Today, we take another step in our transformational journey, striving to be purpose-led, performance-driven, and value-creating. We're embracing the new to shape the future. We're 35,000 strong, working across 170 countries, continuing to be a force for good. A better version of ourselves, guided by our principles and values. We're going boldly into the future, working together as one VF to scale new heights.
You have so many sportswear brands. Thank you for having me. So to explain what I do, it's quite long. I am the only non-American officer of the company in the US. So in the executive committee, I look after Europe. So you are the executive vice president and officer, and you work on Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So the so-called EMEA region. You are the leading group in sportswear internationally, Nike or Adidas aside. Yes. I think our portfolio is constantly evolving. The company is 222 years old. 122 years old. So they try to evolve, looking at the future. So they decided to have brands that belong to a certain type of activity or relate to a given type of customer. This also links back to sustainability, and I think this was already mentioned during the other speeches. So when we talked, we mentioned 3 areas that are mostly important to VF in terms of managing these brands. Can you mention them? Okay, I don't remember them exactly, but so can you tell us what is strategic to the corporation? Well, in the way we work, we want to be quicker. It means intensity, it means values. Culture generates this type of values. You've seen some of the values in the video. Empathy, curiosity, courage. You generate a type of interaction with the brands within the company, within the corporation, and with the customers. This also translates into the business model, so the evolution of what we achieve. In the past 3 to 4 years, I think we focused on digital platforms. We integrated the channels, and we created the so-called digital empathy, which modified itself during the pandemic. The global agenda is dictated by the consumers. The values come from the newest generation. So what brands need to do is to listen, guide the vision, artistic vision of the brand, and lead the dance with the consumers, because we have to listen to consumers and to evolve. So the speed of the evolution, of course, depends, but it is very interesting nowadays. In terms of technology, I sat down with the founder of Zalando 8 years ago to understand how we could think of big brands and to create a platform that was basically technology. It wasn't that evolved in terms of interaction with consumers, but Digiland, which begins from our e-commerce, but it uses all third-party platforms in an integrated way, it becomes an ecosystem. And in this ecosystem, brands need to be very quick and consistent. So once you choose your positioning, you use the platform, and the intensity is clear. I mean, in Europe, through the different brands, we receive an order every 7 seconds. We send 107,000 emails per minute, so the intensity, the speed is incredible. So you mean between your e-commerce and the other platforms? I'm talking about our e-commerce only. If you add up all other platforms, it's even bigger For us, the digital world accounts for 1/3 of the turnover. So your group has a turnover of one third of the turnover coming from online digital clients. And we also have an innovation aspect. Innovation is a model, a business model that needs to suit the change of the market. And we have to look at design. This is what Mr. Bizzarri said earlier. The design is at the center of the future of the brand with two souls, maybe. An aesthetic soul, so the creative vision of the brand through designs, and the intensity of production of design. So we don't have seasons anymore. So when you have a digital platform, and consumer moment leading, you are constantly trying to provide contents, assets, products, stories to our customers. So this is not based on season. This is almost weekly or monthly. So very frequently, you have to create continuous narrative, so you cannot wait for 6 months for another piece of the story. The design needs to fuel this completely different model. So this creative vision needs to translate into an intensity of content creation that's incredible. And we have sustainability that begins with responsible design. If you think that textile worldwide consumed 109 million tons of fibers, it is clear that the impact of our industry is off the charts. So sustainability begins with design, because design leads in circular progresses, in choice of materials, in the way businesses face the main issue, so raw materials, and it also involves creation. So everything we're doing in terms of recycling, circularity begins there. So if you don't have responsible design, you cannot really solve this conundrum. So I think design is the innovative soul. Designers have the ability to take a shortcut towards the future that sometimes managers don't have. So they have a different way of connecting, more emotional. So that's very valuable. But this has to be embedded in a high-speed model where everything is integrated. So talking about sustainability, you mentioned a high number of tons of fibers. So what can you perform better in terms of sustainability? How can you be eco-friendly, so to speak? We have strong commitment. I'm saying something that I was very happy with. We recently published our 4th sustainability report, and we had 500 million impressions. I'm not sure what impression means, but it is a very high number, so it means that many people got in touch with the report we created. So we say in this report what we achieved and what we want to achieve, while not going behind 2030. We do a lot. We committed to have 100% of our main materials to be upcycled, recycled, or sustainable. So this will have an huge impact. Our distribution centers, 400 million are produced per year, and these are then shipped. Our distribution centers worldwide are all zero waste facilities, and then we have a large list of products of goals in terms of emissions and environmental impact. Then you have to take all of these goals and engage the customer. We collaborated with Zalando and North Face, so we took the best-selling jackets, we took damaged items, so we reinterpreted them through our designer. We made them into rucksack and we sold them in support of disadvantaged communities. So I think this helps us to tell the story, and it helps the customer understanding a bigger picture. So this is why I say that design can lead sustainability and can lead the narrative. You have 12 billion turnover with several very famous brands. I think Supreme was the last one that was integrated in your fund. This is very complex. A company that is less structured can actually face these issues. I mean, those are clear. There is nothing to argue there, but they're very complex to manage. I have a very exact idea. You have to simplify the model. Of course, not all companies can do everything. I admire the entrepreneurs who can reach the first 100 million. You have to have a sequence. You cannot solve your issues in all stage of life. For us, Supreme is a very important acquisition in terms of strengthening a model, because Supreme has e-commerce and retail-led business model, and they have weekly drops. So it is completely different model. Did they solve all issues in terms of sustainability? Absolutely not. They are now facing new problems, but also even smaller companies, if they make simple choices and if they are consistent, I think they can grow even faster. So, of course, we cannot expect everything from everyone, but I think bigger groups need to take social responsibility. When we talk about ESG, there is environment, there is social responsibility, and there's governance, and these factors are crucial. You have to be transparent, you have to be certified, you have to tell the story through numbers and through the goals you reach. One last thing, if I may. When we talk about social responsibility, it is evident that big companies need to put pressure on communities and on politics in order to reach an infrastructure. So smaller companies do not have to create a solution. They have to be led by a system that produces infrastructure systems that allows them to be sustainable. So the price on sustainability cannot be only on the shoulders of companies and customers. Of course, we need a bigger picture. We need to help businesses doing that. BF always grew by acquisition. We also have organic growth. Yes, but when you acquire a brand, it is then developed. Is that a limit for you? How many brands do you have? 12. Is that a hurdle for you? What is the evolution of VF? We are industrial company. We're not a holding. We've been around for more than 100 years for this very reason, but we were able to reinvent ourselves. We had 30 brands 10 years ago. We now have 12. I think the pandemic really helped us rethinking the best version of ourselves. So we somehow made some drastic choices in terms of portfolio in the past 2 years. So you sold, yes, of course, we went from 30 to 12. We only acquired Supreme, and we sold all workwear and jeans. But managing a portfolio actively is not a financial exercise. It is more of a strategic exercise. We have a purpose, so the lens through which we see all strategic decisions, and this also filter all of our portfolio decisions. We look at brands that are in line with an active lifestyle, with sustainability purposes, and we want to push integration of movements. So our employees are very active privately. They work in communities, or, for example, the Timberland case. So this is crucial. Do you think in the US they're ahead of Europe and the rest of the world? I think the opportunities of aligning is that new generations are global. Transparency is due to digital, and it is endless, so it shouldn't be different. Of course, there are areas of excellence everywhere, so I want to say America is better than Europe. There are excellent examples in the US, and the same goes for Europe. That was very interesting. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.